okay, another perfect example of sometimes the gulf that exists between what is ethical and legally acceptable versus what is socially acceptable would be something like the way that some creators approach React content. And I know this is gonna be a hot
spicy potato.
There's gonna be a hot take. Oh, I can't believe he's talking about this, but it's like it's actually pretty cut and dried, right? Like I'm not gonna. There's no point not being transparent about it because the internet never forgets anything. So I might as well just tell you guys we're working on a React channel. Like it is effort, easy content. And it is like obscenely profitable if you can generate a bunch of views on content that takes almost literally no time. That's what it is. That's what React content is. And
what's your approach to the? I'm very intrigued. What is the approach to the React content channel?
Well, first I'm going to talk about what are the obvious problems with some of the React content that's out there.
Okay.
The defense that is used by. And I'm not going to name anyone because I don't need any beef in my life. It's a waste of brain energy for me. But the argument that is often used to defend it is fair use. Fair use is a gray area for one thing. It actually has to be defended in court. It is not as simple as, well, it's fair use, therefore it's fine. The only reason that you might get away with saying it's fair use is if nobody chooses to challenge you on it. So in a way, you could look at that fair use argument for React content as basically just a way that large creators can turn their nose up at small creators who can't afford to defend their work by saying, essentially, because you can't afford to sue me, it's fair use. That's a pretty shitty stance.
Yeah.
And a lot of what gets defended as fair use is clearly not. Google has a support doc for this because they run a little site you might have heard of before called YouTube. And so they have a lot of kind of like legal Q&A on there. And the 4 factors of fair use are laid out, or pillars, if you want to call them that, are laid out pretty clearly. So there's the purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is commercial or is for nonprofit educational purposes. If it's commercial, that's a big strike against you. And the second you hit monetization or pimp t-shirts or screwdrivers or whatever else, that's very commercial use, right? Courts typically focus on whether the use is transformative. That is, whether it adds new expression or meaning to the original, or whether it merely copies from the original. And this is a spectrum, right? This is not just black and white. It adds new expression or it doesn't. It's up to the interpretation and it's up to the arguments that get made. Number 2 is the nature of the copyrighted work, right? So using material from a factual work is more likely to be fair than from a fictional work. Number 3, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. And this is where a lot of React content, as it is right now, is in deep doo-doo. A lot of people in the chat are talking about the H3 ruling. Yes, that did go in favor of Ethan, but you've also got to remember and understand that fair use is something that is tackled on a case-by-case basis by the courts. And in the case of H3 Productions versus that guy, I can't remember his name, Ethan, to his credit, did not use the entire original source. And the bulk of the video was, for better or for worse, H3's commentary, right? As opposed to just the original work being consumed in a way that is not benefiting the original rights holder in any way. Number 4, and this is another huge one that is highly problematic with a lot of React content right now, the effect on the potential market for or the value of the copyrighted work. If you play the entire video as part of the video, the impact is enormous. Let's say, for example, someone did a React video to one of ours where they pulled a few key things, but largely transformed it, largely contributed their own thoughts and their own expression. That is pretty obviously fair use, even though it is commercial. So usually I wouldn't consider our content to be primarily or purely fictional. I'd say that we strive to create factual works, so it is more likely to be covered by fair use. The character of the use, while it is commercial, it would be highly transformative, and the amount of that is used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole could be quite low. There also is potentially a positive effect on the potential market for the copyrighted work. So in the case of something like, let's say, let's stick with the example that we're using just for the sake of ease of following along. So if you only provide snippets of the original video, but explicitly in your content you say, but there's some key parts of it that you should go check out, I've got it linked down below, there's a much stronger argument for fair use. As it is right now, if you upload a video that is essentially the entire original work for profit for yourself with some chunks where you respond to or react to or talk over the original work, there is no reason whatsoever to go watch the original work. And so you'll see these large creators that are getting, in some cases, many times the viewership of the original work at the cost of the original work. And I honestly don't have the solution to this right now. Because it's pretty clear that YouTube's copyright claim system is pretty broken. Even if something was clearly not fair use, I don't necessarily think that I would be entitled to 100% of the revenue, which to my knowledge is the only way you can copyright claim something. You basically just say, I think that's all mine, or you can say, I think I deserve nothing. There's no middle ground whatsoever. And two, the community backlash is just not worth it because there's this perception that I don't know. I actually just don't really understand why. Because sitting as someone who is, relatively speaking, on the top of the online creator pyramid, I can tell you right now that the community backlash that follows any smaller creator who's trying to enforce copyright is wrong.
Negative. Yeah.
It's wrong. It's just plain wrong. It benefits the people who are at the top who don't need it. They actually have money. They could hire staff, create something original, get equipment, whatever. Whereas the people who are at the bottom actually need it. They can't build a screwdriver from scratch and sell 100,000 units, right? They don't have the same tools. And so to ignore these arguments just because, we don't like people being mean to people we've formed a parasocial relationship with, it's messed up, man.
Okay, so all of that being said, how's yours going to work?
So what I've got in the, I'm not signed into that account on here. 1 sec.
Good.
Yes. So basically, it's in the comments. General reaction channel guidelines. Timeliness is hugely important. Blah, blah, blah. Nope. Where is it? Okay. That time someone reacted to one of our things. Yeah, it was really, really interesting. So again, as a content creator, I have actual numbers for how beneficial reaction content is to the original creator. The answer is much. In case you guys are wondering, and that's even as someone with a substantial following already and whose content might already have significant momentum. On a channel from someone who's only ever on a channel that's only ever uploaded one video or something like that, where they don't have that critical mass.
I do think there's multiple arguments here.
Sure, and it depends on the nature of the inclusion.
Yes.
If you include, so this is okay. I'm getting to it.
Okay.
I'm getting to it. Unfortunately, I just don't have the Basically, I don't know. I can't find it. I laid
Because
out
I've seen it work.
I've laid out some
throw that
guidelines
out there.
for what I would consider to be like ethical reaction content, where the goal, the stated purpose, and not just the stated purpose, but the actual goal of the content needs to be to uplift the original creator, as opposed to, coming back to the pillars of fair use, harm the value or potential market for the original work. And I think that's something that has just been completely lost.
I think there is and there has been reaction content that is like clearly exploitative.
Exploitative, yes. He
But
hasn't
I
been
don't-
practicing talking for a week.
It's actually true. That's probably not the reason why that just happened, but it is true. But I have also seen reaction content that has like made channels, basically.
For sure.
For
sure.
It totally happens. And I think a lot of it we were talking about earlier, but like how instead of the algorithm, you should say community. I think a lot of it has to do with the community that follows that person. Are
Yep.
they only ever going to watch this person's content because of the host and they have no real cares about the source? And they're never going to follow through. They're never going to go to that channel. They're never going to check it out, whatever. Or is it a community of people that are going to follow through and are going to give support when they when the creator watches different videos, whatever?
The problem with that argument is it's not up to you.
Yeah.
It's up to the original copyright holder.
Well, for sure.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what you think.
No, that's not a good take.
Well, it doesn't though.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's not my statement.
Oh, I thought you were saying that I, as the reactor,
No.
can just decide, well,
No.
my audience isn't really going to follow through on this, so I should just show it to them.
No.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you.
No.
Because I was like, really?
What I'm saying is that in I think especially the current era, there's a big mix of ones that are good and aren't good. And obviously,
even within individuals, there's a mix
Absolutely.
of doing the right thing and being extremely lazy.
I've seen example clips of someone
Yeah.
who will go from really good reactionary content to a piece of content that probably that probably makes you want to go follow through and see
Yeah.
the original creator, all that kind of stuff. And then the next clip, they're like eating. So it just plays the video and they literally never say a whole thing other than just like,
Yeah.
while they're chewing. And it's like, wow, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know what to say about this, but
Well, I know what
it
to
is
say.
what it is.
But they might watch LTT, and I'm not supposed to insult the audience.
Got him. But yeah, I don't know. I know of channels that exist that basically only exist because reaction channels blew them up. But then I also know of channels that hate it and have openly tried to get people to stop, and people just keep doing it.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, it's rough.
Well, the answer is really simple. The answer
Just
is
reach out and ask.
reach out and ask.
Yeah.
And that's,
And I do also know people that do that right now. to
and
be clear.
that's the worst part. Like I have personally had content used in montages or like mashups or reaction videos or whatever.
Yeah, like someone brought up in Floatplane chat, Gardner Bryant was a Linux creator
Sure.
that reacted to some of our Linux challenge
Sure.
videos. I watched them. I thought they were really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
But hold on. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. But I have personally known of huge creators, like enormous creators, that did not have a valid fair use argument for their use of our content,
Gotcha.
and could have reached out, like absolutely could have reached out, or had their staff reach out. Like I'm talking creators with a staff. Like Star Wars Kid. That's an old reference anyway. And just didn't. And that's just pure laziness.
Yeah.
Even people I know. So there's a handful of creators that I have like a standing agreement with. Like Austin Marquez, for example. It's like, hey, can we just have a mutual, like, if I need to use a clip from you and I'll make sure I'd like say it's from you,
Attribute it or whatever. put a
and
little banner
if you use a
thing.
clip from me and make sure that you do the same, can we just like not email every time? Sure. But that's a positive, that's a constructive way to build community. Just taking stuff and being like, oh, it'll probably benefit them. I don't know, maybe. That's not cool. And it should never be acceptable. And you know, you have to ask
is
yourself.
one of the pillars of your reaction channel going to be that you reach out every time for every video?
I think we should, yeah. I think that...
Well, you're speaking out against it, so I think it would have to be, right?
Well, it depends, right? So if you are reacting to... Okay, so a perfect example of this would be the recent CoffeeZilla Logan Paul controversy. Logan Paul's not going to give CoffeeZilla permission to utilize portions of his video. But in that case, CoffeeZilla is clearly transforming the original work. That is not sitting and eating while the Logan Paul video plays as like a weird spectacle or whatever else. So in the case of a clear and obvious fair use argument, I don't think we have to. So we just have to...
Why would you?
Sorry?
Is that reaction channel going to cover divisive things like that?
I don't know. We're not sure yet.
What is it? Is it a tech reaction channel? Is it...
So let's go. Let's talk about some of the things we have in here. So, you know, one of the things we could do is, like, we've done a few of these on the main channel, like reacting to community submissions, like best and worst builds and stuff like that. Reacting to
Those are community submissions. That's a totally different thing.
But it's still it's reaction content.
But it's not.
It's ethical reaction content.
It's not reaction content in the way that the internet would interpret the term reaction content.
Really, internet? Would you consider that to be reaction content?
I don't think they would, because if you say react,
let's pull it.
Okay,
let's pull it.
All right.
I'm gonna do my pull dance.
Oh my god. You're gonna get some reaction content from that.
They're gonna side with you. They're gonna side with you even if I'm right.
Because you're wrong.
No, it's reaction content. Anyway.
It is reaction content by definition of the term. It is not reaction content by how the internet interprets that. If you say
but you asked
a React channel, people are going to think that you're reacting to videos because that's how that works right now. If it's user-submitted videos, that is seen as a different thing.
All right, let's see the poll results.
I'm working on results.
Why don't you? If you're so confident, why don't you put up a poll, smart guy?
Because I'm typing it out. Come on.
Okay, so some other ideas. You know, I really love what Corridor Crew does, where they will bring on experts to react to. You know, so that's such a good example of how you can take very obviously copyrighted work from very aggressive IP companies like a Disney, for example, and confidently include stills or even motion from their content in your video. Because if you are, for example, doing a detailed breakdown of how the CGI was done for a particular scene, and you're sitting there, you're talking about how much work it was and how cool it was, you are not using a substantial amount. The effect on the original work is obviously positive. The nature of your own work is clearly more informative and or educational / factual. And even though the nature of the copyrighted work is purely fictional, the way it is being transformed into something that is educational is very, very cut and dried, right? So anyway, bringing in experts. You know, something that I've wanted to do for a long time on the LTT channel. We just haven't gotten around to it. Might have even gotten as far as an email to Wendell, sup Wendell, is I want to do LTT reacts to like bad hacking scenes in movies. That would be amazing. Is that react enough for you? Huh?
That fits my term.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that
so? Yes.
Okay. Is that acceptable?
Well, maybe not.
Is that under the umbrella of reaction content?
I don't know if it is.
Okay. What is common? Oh, your poll is bad because it makes it seem like a binary choice.
Because I didn't include a both.
Oh, yeah. Floatplane chat does not like it.
Yeah, because they want a both.
Okay.
But that's that defeats the whole point.
All right.
And they don't get that and you don't get that, but it defeats the whole point.
We want to do reacting to like bad product listings. So like going through like, you know, Facebook Marketplace, you know, people who think their computer's worth way too much. We actually did one of those before. Tech memes.
Don't lead the question. I didn't lead the question.
Reacting to old
We've
videos of ours.
actually found that more people will click the top option. I put the top option as not the one that I was saying. Screw off.
They're right. They don't like your poll, and they're right.
No, they're wrong. They're all wrong. The whole audience is wrong.
We've got reacting to old videos of ours. So one of the suggestions was Linus finally watches what it's like to work for Linus and reacts to it, which I commented on. I said I won't do it.
You said you never would.
Yeah. I was like, no, we can't do that one. That one's off limits. But like overall, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, best and worst of TikTok, stuff like that. But again, that's getting into the gray area unless we're doing a really good job of reaching out to people, which I will tell you right now, for our trying TikTok hacks videos in the past, I don't think we've reached out to people. However, what we've done has been highly transformative. We are actually doing things. We're actually trying them. I'm not eating a box of noodles while I watch other people's content.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think what it basically comes down to is just being ethical about it and adhering to the 4 pillars of fair use and making sure that regardless of who it is and whether they could afford to take us to court over it, making sure that we would have a strong fair use argument that we believe with certainty that we would win. That's, I think, the bottom line. And or just getting permission from the original creator.
Right.
That's where we're at on it. Because at this point, like, you're kind of stupid not to have a React channel. It's kind of like a Clips channel. Man, do you guys have any idea how long they pushed me around here to do a Clips channel for the WAN show? Do you know how successful the Clips channel is? I think it makes more money than the actual WAN show.
Probably.
Which is like, how does that even make any sense? It's just...
It like must actually. Yeah. Because you're dividing it up into a bunch of content and each one of those content pieces is doing well.
LMG Clips gets 10 million views a month.
Yeah.
It is actually, in terms of just overall viewership, it is on par with like what I would consider to be like B tier tech channels. And I'm sitting here going, what? How is that even possible? They know they can just link to a timestamp in the WAN show, right? But that's not how people engage with content. They want it to be digestible. And there's a huge contingent of our viewers that is absolutely just militantly opposed to watching long format content like the WAN show, but does want to hear about what we talk about on the WAN show.
And I've said this before, like I'm not going to sit down and watch the whole WAN show.
Oh yeah. Yvonne's the same way.
Yeah.
She never looks at WAN show, but she's like, she'll devour clips.
Clips are
She's
cool.
like, yeah, what are Linus and Luke talking about this week?
Yeah. And I've always understood why people like the timestamp guy in the description or in the pinned comment. Sorry.
Yep.
Because like, yeah, it's a really, especially lately, man. We've had some like 3.5 hour shows.
Based on how many of our topics we've hit so far today, this is going to be a marathon. You down, Dan? Let's go.
Like they get pretty intense. So being able to sit down and watch the whole thing, especially in one sitting, it's like half a work day.
And you know what? The reality of it is that a good title and thumbnail works. Like this is great. A Prime in the Float Plane chat, who is Alex P, one of our editors. He goes, I watch WAN, I edit tech tips. I'm gonna add something here. I am really good at like creating YouTube thumbnails. I am literally like a creator of the drug, right? I'm a dealer.
Yeah.
I still end up being clickbaited into WAN clips. It is literally content he has seen before from people he can talk time he wants, who he works in the same building as, at least some of them.
Yeah.
And he still manages to click on it.
That's so funny.
I don't make the rules, right? Like it comes back to that conversation about, is it the algorithm or is it the audience? I don't determine what works.
Yeah. You just have to kind of go with the flow.
You have to go with the flow. You got to go with the flow. So we're going to make a Reacts channel.